All right. Give Josh a hand. Yeah.
All right. So, if anybody want to grab a chair, grab it pretty quick. But we're just going to go through a little bit about where GoDaddy has been with regards to OpenStack, our journey currently, some little neat videos of what we've been doing the last few months, as well as
I do need Josh. The mic. Otherwise we can't hear you.
Okay. I don't want to go too close. Thank you. Sure. Okay. So, yeah, we're just going to go through some of the OpenStack journey for GoDaddy, where we've been, where we're going. And, thank you. How's that? Okay. Closer. All right, how's that? Can't get much closer. Good? No? Yes. Okay. All right, let's keep on going here. So let's dive into where GoDaddy and OpenStack and where we've been and where we're going and maybe where we'd like to work with folks on. A little bit of stuff that probably has not been shown before around what clouds we have, the sizes, and sort of how we deploy and a little bit of the architecture of what we're deploying, how we've done it, some lessons learned that I think is probably very valuable for folks that are hitting certain scale limits. Maybe you're starting off and it's not so bad, or using some solution from a provider or whatever. Now you're thinking about going to the next step. So we've sort of been there a little bit and learned some things that hopefully we can share with you and make it easier for everyone. And there's a couple of key projects that we're trying to invest into that help out with. So jumping right in here. So where did we start? We started about 2013. This probably was mentioned in the Vancouver slide set, but let's bring it back up. We made this big bet on open source, especially the OpenStack for infrastructure. We really like the community, how large it is. Still, like every summit I think I go to, which I've been to like 10 now or something, it just keeps on getting bigger. There's like 200, then 2,000. I don't know. It just keeps on growing. So that's always great to see, and it's always fun to like. You form these interesting bonds with folks that you see every single time. Like Monty, I don't know, there's a bunch. I won't name them all. But we started deploying OpenStack around after doing some work with it around 2013. We still think it's missing some key functionality, but these get filled in. So at the late end of the slide set, we're going to talk about some of those. Nothing that isn't already being addressed, I believe, but things that are known. So here's a little picture of where we're at and sort of the technologies we have. We have data centers or control planes for OpenStack in various parts of the US, the US West and the US East. Nothing too unexpected there. Europe and Southeast Asia. We run a lot, we're basically a CENT7 shop, CentOS shop. Do HA proxy in fronting most of these REST APIs. Use Kibana for logging and metrics and gathering. Puppet and Ansible for deployment. Currently moving to more towards Ansible as a longer-term solution. MariaDB we use, it's basically MySQL. That's nothing special there. You'll have that. RabbitMQ obviously for the message queue for OpenStack. And we have GitHub and Slack here as well, pretty heavily integrated into our deployment solution that we're building, which I'll show later in a little bit. Also, something to note that there's actually 8 of these. A little closer.
We can solve this.
We can solve this.
Okay.
Good?
Okay.
All right. A little awkward, but only a tiny bit. I feel like I'm going to hit the mic any second now, but it's okay. So just to know, we also have 2 of these for every single, like there's 2 times this amount because we have a private and a public cloud. So we have this many control planes in private land and the same amount in public land. So that's 8 total. This sort of shows a little bit about the sizes of VMs, where we started about 2013 with some VMware product, with the same product that other people have started with. And now we're moving much quicker, with much larger numbers. As you can see, 2017. This is pretty recent. I think these numbers were gathered like last week or somewhat recently. So you can see the growth there has been pretty tremendous. Like 10x the number of hypervisors, almost 10x the number of VMs. So a lot of adoption, different parts of the world. I think the Singapore one is probably what may not have existed in 2013, but that one's growing. There's up in, I believe that's Amsterdam or something. That's a new center as well. So there's a lot of usage of OpenStack, and for various use cases from like deployment, Jenkins, using it as like a developer server basically. So my dev box is not, I don't have a dev box, right? Everybody goes to OpenStack and provisions one, usually from the US, because that's where we have, at least I'm located. Other people, a large majority of GoDaddy is in like Phoenix and Arizona. So that's why that one is also the largest, this whole circle here. Sort of how this is laid out for us using the technologies we talked about previously, but we have HA proxy fronting all of our like API servers, which are all co-located on boxes here. Those right now run using uWSB, which is a, I don't know, it's a Python WSB framework that people may be using. HA proxy fronts that and does SSL termination there. And then we have two cells for each cluster or each control plane, which a cell concept, if you're not aware, is this thing that Nova has, sort of a, almost like a sharding mechanism, but it's a distribution mechanism for scaling out. You can have larger cells, or you can have like an ironic cell, for example, and a VM cell, and then you can have a top level that lets you do both, which is useful for separation. It's useful for, you can take down a cell, you don't have to worry about destabilizing the other cell. So there's a bunch of advantages of that. There's new Nova work that's ongoing. That's this V2 revamp of the cells code, which is changing it. It should still map to this architecture fine. It's only an issue if you're aware of, like, if you have a hierarchy, like a really nested tree here, I think they're eliminating with the V2 stuff, so that it's a one level tree basically, which for us it's fine because we're only really one level anyway. So sort of the various steps we've been through and what we've learned is a little bit summarized into this little slide here, where we're going to dive in a little bit deeper onto each one of these. But it goes into a lot of what people struggle with OpenStack is, how do I even get the thing packaged or installed, right? Do I pick RPMs? Do I pick Debian packages? Do I pick Docker images? Do I pick virtual environments? Do I pick LXC containers? I'm probably missing a couple that people have done as well, but those are like the main ones that I know that people use. Like, I believe each company almost has their own little thing. Like, I think Rackspace started off probably with virtual environments, then did LXC containers. Yahoo started off with RPMs, and then now does virtual environments. We did RPMs here, and now we're switching to Docker containers. So there's this like a very big forest of different kind of packaging techniques you can use, and some of them are worse than others, and we sort of have learned a little bit from that, and talk about that a little bit later. Our deployment has also shifted in part due to that package change from packaging via RPMs to the next kind of evolution, which is containers, which makes things simpler. So our deployment processes have started to change as well. The scale has been interesting. I mean, we don't have to talk about it for this one, but it's been interesting shifting from a smaller, as you saw, the VMware size was like 200 hypervisors to 2,000 or higher, right? I mean, it changes how you actually operate and deploy OpenStack when you make that shift, and you learn some things on the way, which are those sort of operational best practices here. Of course, the other hard part, and like not necessarily hard, but it's something we have to do to be a good community member, is being involved, right? That's in part what I help to do, and others on the team have to do as well. But it's something that you have to do, or you sort of, in a way, you lose track of where everybody else is at, and that can be a negative for you as well. So a little bit about what we did for packaging. This is sort of where we've been and where we are now, or moving to. Involves these four concepts here. We have this process that, this program actually that I helped build over at Yahoo when I was over there, that would automate package building, RPM building. It was potentially targeted at building Debian package, but it would help you automate that. And Yahoo used it for a while, and they adopted it here. I believe Cray did too. I don't really know what happened with Cray, but we sort of, I think both companies and both teams have learned that managing that number of RPMs, because basically if you ever looked at what it takes to install OpenStack, the number of Python dependencies that sort of get pulled in is probably around 200 or 300. So there's a lot of maintenance around just those packages and how fragile they are. So we've been moving away from that here, and I think other places as well, to some kind of machine-generated virtual environment or image. And here we're picking this Kolla project down here, which they just got a new logo. It was one of their foundation-sponsored logos, I think. And we're connecting that into our GitHub. We're connecting into Slack. We're connecting into our Jenkins, so that it builds all of our images for us, and we're actually going to deploy those as a single unit. We're using Artifactory as well. This hopefully breaks apart the fragileness of building those RPMs and the way you have to deploy those, which is a result of those as well. So let's see, I think we have we have this program that is being written in part by the team, but that sort of you interact with on Slack. It lets you connect with the Jenkins building of those images via a nice little human interactive way. So this is what we call the architect. If you've ever watched The Matrix, you'll know what that means, but maybe too old now, I don't know. The Matrix is like 18 years old, I think. So
I feel really old. Thank you, Josh.
It's scary, but so this is sort of this is our Jenkins little video I made of this actually happening. You can do it via the Jenkins UI, so you have abilities to actually put on all the parameters you want for a build. And this one is sort of interesting. I'll pause that, but this lets you see what the different stages that Jenkins is going to do. And one of those stages is actually building Kolla images. We do unit testing of those images post-build so that we have some sanity checks on those images that occur before they go into Artifactory. So that's sort of the pipeline. There's each project for Nova. They're all sort of based off this generic one. And this is me showing you. You can sort of see all the different steps. You can see, I think this is probably the unit testing maybe. But you can see different stages. You can see their output. And so this is where we are with our Jenkins integrations, building those containers. So that sort of gets around the fragile packaging situation that we hit. And now it's pretty automated in Jenkins to actually trigger that and build new images, ideally as quick as we can, as quick as we can to compare to the upstream releases. Like when a new upstream stable is made, we want to be able to pull that in pretty quickly. We're not yet running off ahead. I'm not sure if we ever will, but yeah, we want to try to move closer as we can. That's one thing that you sort of learn after a while from being in the community, that it sort of degrades after, if you keep on the old stuff, it's not really like extra stable. It doesn't get more stable. It sort of just gets a little bit, I don't know what to call it. It's like, it's bit rot, but it's like degrading-ish as well. So if you can try to keep up, at least one release behind would be fine with us. I think that's pretty well known. They keep the stable releases, I think 2 releases. So you could go back to 2, but then you're getting into the bit rot area. So that's sort of where we are with this. This is sort of a little bit of what it shows up in Slack. If you use Slack, I don't know how many people are using Slack nowadays, or HipChat, or whatever the rest of the stuff is nowadays. But this is our integration with that. You can sort of, we have abilities to watch all the Jenkins activity in the Slack channel, which is sort of nice. Then getting into sort of the deployment aspect, where we learned some things when we were at a smaller scale. We're now moving to something else. This is around, yeah, the old stuff was Puppet, which you can understand thinking about the RPMs that we had previously, right? Puppet is pretty good at putting out RPMs, and as long as you tell it what to do, it will find all the RPMs and try to manage it all for you and do some Ansible. We had some Ansible to help out with some operational tasks, but now since we're switching to the image/container strategy, that sort of model changes a little bit. It's not completely changed, but there's still parts of it that are left in the old stuff, but it does definitely change. So we're basically having these containers be pushed out via Ansible, basically. That's integrated into Slack to do the same kind of stuff, where you can push out the images via Slack. We're having a central command and control to actually do all those image pushes, where previously it was more of, you would run Ansible to trigger Puppet, and then Puppet would actually do the actual package installations, and you would sort of hope that would work out. We have sort of our description language in a way, or format that basically describes all of our environments. The stuff that you saw in that previous one that listed like the different regions of the world, all those are all the configuration for that, where each server is, sort of like an inventory database in a way. It's maintained in the tool that we're maintaining a format that other tools can query and actually use to do this kind of automation. So that's one of the things that you sort of learn when you're building that out, is that you need that kind of inventory system to know, like, what is a hypervisor? Where are the hypervisors for my XYZ region, right? Where are my database servers? Where are my API servers? All that kind of stuff. You need to know that so you can actually do this automation in the first place. So I think I made another little video here. So this is sort of doing a deployment. This is a glance deployment of actually using the containers that were built previously. Also, you can see this is also using Jenkins. Jenkins has a new UI that's actually pretty nice. We've been revamping the old style stuff in Jenkins to actually look sort of modern, depending on your version of modern. So that's all connected in there. This is being worked on to flush this out as we speak, I think. Another sort of one that is actually pretty different, and sort of it's both here when they're building OpenStack or trying to get it started. Because a lot of folks start off with DevStack, and that's not too bad. I mean, it has its quirks, as everybody probably here knows if you tried it. Then you sort of move to, oh, I can operate a small cloud, and I can do that by pop that in some Ansible and do that, and that will work out okay. But then when you get into this larger set of more than like 2 clouds or more than 200 nodes, you sort of figure out that what you were doing previously was not working. And I mean, some of the lessons that we're trying to put away or give others here is that try to be hands off from the start, at least maybe not the beginner stage, but from the intermediate stage, try to use tooling that makes your environment not fragile. If it's as low touch as possible, it may mean you need to build automation from somewhere around the intermediate stage, but it's definitely worth it, I think, for expanding your cloud, expanding to multiple regions. Probably nothing new for folks, but it's something you discover right around the advanced stage when you're like, oh, this is not working as well as I wanted it to. And of course, one of the harder parts is you have to actually do this transition. At least we're doing it, the transition while the clouds are still operating. So you can imagine going back to, we have Puppet and some Ansible, and we're trying to, at actual, like, while these clouds are still working, move to this mechanism without destroying the old mechanism, like the old clouds. So there's additional complexity I'm not even mentioning here around, like, how do you transition from something that is RPM based to something that is container based, and what does it even look like for your operations team, your deployment? So there may be probably another meetup just for that one, where we can sort of say, like, how did we pull that off? Because it's still underway, actually. So there's that transition that I think if people started out earlier, the better, actually. So of course there's the one that's always interesting too, is how do you be involved upstream while doing this? Like, for example, even today, there was a meeting upstream about there's an architecture working group that actually is formed with some of the people that people may know, like Clint Byram, I think, Chris Dant. There's a few folks that are common names of senior folks that have been around OpenStack for like 5 or 6+ years that are working on trying to address some of the larger like issues with OpenStack with regard to scale. So you have to sort of be involved in those as well while doing all this other stuff. So you can imagine how that works out. It's like you're pulled a lot of places, but we've managed to pull it off so far. You just have to figure out how to best allocate yourself and other folks on your team, and where are high priority items to fix and stuff like that. So some of the things that I've wanted to share with folks around the operational stuff was, if you're trying to use distribution packages, I would recommend probably not. I mean, I know if you're paying, like, I won't say that totally. If you're supporting or going through support for like Marantis, or I think we'll build packages, or maybe Ubuntu or Red Hat or Debian, maybe it might be okay. I mean, as long as you're comfortable with that. When you're building them on your own or doing your own mechanism for building those packages, it probably starts to may not be worth it in the long term. It's a lesson I think I've learned hard. over at Yahoo, and also it's the same lesson here that it was probably something that we should have been done differently from the start. So if you can avoid doing that from the start, that's one of the things I would recommend. Even another part is even just using containers like in basic form. Like you don't have to use Docker Compose to set up your OpenStack cloud, or you don't necessarily have to use Kubernetes to set up your OpenStack cloud. Although there are projects that are trying to target that, like this thing that we're using to build the images actually has like a sub-project called Kolla Kubernetes that its sort of goal is to take those same Docker images and use Kubernetes to span out the OpenStack cluster, which it's probably great. But even just almost a minimal usage of containerized OpenStack components is worth it, I think. Even if you're not putting the configurations in the container, if you're leaving them outside and you're doing like a bind mount in, that's fine. It just helps with the number of dependencies and the different aspects that you have to worry about with regards to OpenStack. The container really helps minimize those, makes it a lot easier to work with. And then of course, like being involved in the operators group as well. Like we have folks on our team like Chris Lindgren and Mike Dorman who have been involved in that, and there's a lot of great folks there as well, trying to make sure that the thing operates, share stories and that kind of stuff. I think they have maybe at the summit, I think they have like a whole subsection of the summit just for the operators that they talk about common issues, share it with the developers, and they work all together to try to solve them. One of the interesting ones is how does a corporation where we have internal users on the private cloud, how do you get them to actually, how do you translate their issues up into upstream ones, and how do you try to resolve those, right? I mean, that's an ongoing issue for us. Like we have certain features that may not be ready yet because upstream is debating them or taking a while. So how do you try to integrate those into your product, right? Because you want to pull down a feature, and so you have to make this almost a trade-off around patching or not patching. But the best approach that I think I've seen is you do a little bit of a mix of both. You get involved upstream in like the product working group, and potentially you might carry a patch for a little while. You just make sure that you really almost like really OCD about those patches and make sure that you're getting rid of them as much as you can, because they become technical debt and you have to get rid of them at some point, right? So the other one that's I think we've seen here is make sure like you're educating users that are using the private cloud or even a public cloud about how clouds are really meant to be ephemeral. Like this cattle versus pets kind of argument that is not always understood by folks until they experience it, when they get to see their VM go bye-bye, and then they're like, yeah, it's sort of what happens. So we've had ongoing work with folks in education and training inside GoDaddy to actually make sure that people understand that they should set up load balancers, right? If they need their thing to scale out or be resilient to failure, and they want to have a load balancer and have more than one VM, and back their storage or database by database as a server solution, and that database server solution will make sure that the database is backed up, it's actually highly available, that kind of thing, right? So those kind of educational aspects, the earlier you can get those going, the better. The next one is how do you balance upstream and downstream? Right? It goes back into the patching. You sort of have to be very careful about how you do it, but just be aware that patches you maintain and things that you're diverging from upstream, it just makes it that much harder to actually reconverge, right? So just keep it in mind. There are various aspects of it. It's not like black and white. It's a spectrum here for how you manage that, but just always keep the spectrum in mind. And if you're getting too much into one, like the gray area, it actually may not be really easy to get back, but just keep it in mind. So where we've been with our community involvement, sort of wanted to throw this out there. So we've been increasing it. You can sort of see this was probably around 2013, and we've been going up and up and trying to keep it going as much as we can. So, but it's not easy being involved with all the other stuff we were mentioning, but we try to keep it up. And what happened around this time? But something. So yeah, just being involved, and I think even doing reviews is helpful for everybody in the OpenStack community. Even if you don't think it is, it's helpful to somebody, right? So make sure you do that. Sort of things we want to work on. If any one of folks like find me afterwards, or we can even share this list elsewhere. Nothing too unexpected here. I mean, less complicated upgrades and deployments. Who doesn't want that, right? One that's interesting is self-healing. There's situations where we've had with RabbitMQ that Rabbit like dies, for example, and other parts of the control plane start dying as well or getting overloaded. So it'd be nice to have more like, I don't know if it's called healing, but more tolerance of those kind of activities where it could heal itself in a way that would not be damaging to the rest of the control plane. Of course, scale and performance, like we're at an area where when you get past like 200 nodes, it starts to actually matter where are the bottlenecks, and people start to actually ask like, why is this API slow versus that API? And we've had more of those popping up. If people are interested in that, feel free to find me as well. Less complicated networking compute APIs. I think I went on a rant on OpenStack recently or a couple weeks ago about that, but I swear that wasn't, somebody else peer pressured me into doing it. This one was like, it's just, if you look at the Neutron APIs, they're very complicated I'm just a simple person who doesn't understand big things, and it's always felt all the amount of work you need to do to actually make Neutron work for the APIs work. It's mind-blowing a little bit to me. But anyway, the cleanup issue is something that we've dealt with as like a technical debt here for a while. But for example, one of the examples of that is if we want to delete a project in Keystone, for example, it may leave orphan VMs over in Nova, right? Because there isn't a great, unless you build the piping yourself to connect when a project gets deleted in Keystone, it has to connect over to Nova to actually do the cleanup. There's actually orphans that get left, and I think we have some like cleanup jobs that have been running, I don't know how long, but that have been trying to actually undo when something like that happens. So there's resource cleanup issues that others may be experiencing that we'd like to work on as well. Yeah, discoverable API endpoints was it's something I think that it's sort of becoming more a common pattern for APIs where you can actually introspect what the API is, what parameters there's to take. OpenStack has some of that. I think they're getting better, especially with like, I think Nova has some schema that they're outputting nowadays. Maybe that can actually tell you what its APIs support in terms of versions or parameters. But yeah, anyways, if you're interested in other ideas, I have a bunch more I can probably just ramble about for a couple hours, but I won't with that. Yeah, we're also hiring, so feel free to find me or find people in the back. There's probably a few of them. So feel free to poke me, and we can be interested in any of these on the aspects, Nova, Neutron, automation, those kind of things. And yeah, you can ask me for questions, and I can take questions for a little while, I suppose, from here.
Can you put the last slide back? Oh, sure. Sorry.
I'll keep that one up for as long as I can. Take a picture.
Can we get the slide somewhere?
Yes, I will. I will try to get the slides. I don't know how.
Post them somewhere, and then we'll post the link.
Okay.
Just
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
The recording is going to be posted as well, right?
So there'll be like a few options for this.
Is that the camera?
That is the camera.
Oh my god. You guys are really
Guys.
It rotates too if you press the rotate button. And shoot around.
Wow. Oh my god. This high-tech meetup is done. Ever.
So also we have. Should I keep it up for long? Keep it good? Got it? Got it? We wanted to show a little video too about GoDaddy. That'd be nice. It's sort of I thought it was great. It's about this area as well. See if you can hear it. That would be the question. All right. Think so?
Yep.
Let's try it. Wait, can you hear it? Yep. Well, there's a video you guys can look at later.
I'll just give me all links.
All right, we should have the questions. You guys can look at the video later.
Do you need to pass the microphone for questions, or are they going to get picked up?
Sorry, what? I'm sorry.
Get questions on the mic for the recording, or will they get picked up?
Okay. All right, yeah, so I can pass it around. I think it'll be okay. They might be getting.
Or just repeat
Yeah, it
the
is unmuted, so these might be working.
Okay, then just repeat the question.
Okay, sure.
Can you talk more about the performance issues you faced when scaling out?
Sure. Let me think of a few.
Performance.
Yeah, oh, sorry. So yeah, the question was, can you talk more about some of the performance issues you hit at scale? So I think one of them is the reason why we want Nova cells. It's not necessarily for performance, but it's related. Is that RabbitMQ seems to be a common bottleneck around how many messages it can handle, how often it falls over. So that was definitely one of the issues we hit around how does it actually fail over. We're still working through even now, like in the last few months or weeks, what is going on with Rabbit, how many messages can it backlog and that kind of stuff, right? So one of the lessons where I think that I can definitely easily share is there's this concept of actually two different message types in OpenStack that you almost want to have on two different types of RabbitMQs. One is this thing called RPCs, which a lot of the services like Nova, probably most of them, use this thing called like a remote procedure called over a message queue. That you can almost put on a more ephemeral Rabbit because the code itself has an ability to retry if it doesn't actually connect over to that server, right? So you can lessen your load on Rabbit by splitting off that type, which is much more ephemeral, to a different Rabbit cluster. And that Rabbit cluster, maybe you don't have to back by persistent disks, maybe you don't have to back by persistent storage because the code itself will handle actually doing like timeouts correctly and handling what to do with all those timeouts. So we're in the process of trying to do that as one of the ways to make Rabbit a little less flaky, for us at least. The other type of messaging that's in OpenStack that we also use here is this thing called notifications, which, for example, like a image creation event is put on this notifications queue. VM create is put on a notifications queue. We're switching that right now, well, it's in progress, to Kafka as a mechanism for that. And we're hoping that other folks in the company are going to be able to consume those because we didn't necessarily want everybody connecting to our Rabbit that was already being used for RPC and notifications. So already sort of prone to falling over. So we're hoping to get to a more transient Rabbit that we can use, and if we want to restart it at any time, it should be fine. We shouldn't have to worry about the persistent mechanisms or Erlang dying or whatever. And then the notifications will go somewhere else to more of a central. Another team is using it as well. No, a central Kafka that lets this other team that runs the public cloud, where they do a bunch of billing and stuff like that, they consume those events and do some gathering of metrics and all that. So that's one of the things I would say is definitely something we've learned that probably would be useful for others. I believe the release that you can actually set up two different types of message queues in the software itself I believe it was Newton actually. But right, Sharon knows back there. We can ask them later. But it allows you to have that kind of separation. Before Newton, you could only have one message queue in the software, and it wouldn't actually let you do two. Like notifications had to go to the same place as RPC. So that's one of the definite things that would be useful for folks to try to do ahead of time, just to avoid, like, keep the things that are ephemeral and treat them as such. Right? If RabbitMQ is okay to fall over, let it fall over and restart it, right? And keep the things that need to be persistent somewhere else. So database-wise, we haven't had. I don't believe we've had too many issues with that scale-wise. Another thing that I guess just to keep in mind is if you have any internal integrations, say we have some that connect into our LDAP, connect into some other internal authentication services, make sure those are ready and able to handle the load that like you're going to be putting on them. And there's like here at GoDaddy, we put those off into the notifications area, so they're sort of asynchronously completed. That's probably a good thing, but lets it sort of go at its own rate. But think about that if you're doing any kind of internal integrations. You want to put it so it's synchronous or asynchronous, and what that will mean for that downstream service as well as your service in terms of like how long your SLA will be. Maybe it will take 10 minutes longer to actually respond to that service or whatever. Just make sure you're considerate about that, and that service can actually handle the scale you're putting on it.
Sure.
So what is the size of your single largest cluster? And yeah, and from what you are telling us, it looks like you guys are sticking with a particular version and never do upgrading again. But anyway, correct me if I'm wrong. So if you had a chance to start over again, it looks like you're gonna go commercial version, commercial release.
I don't think. Let me see if I can repeat that. I think it was a few questions. It was
Just two.
Just two. It was the first one was
The size of
the size of the largest cluster, right?
No,
Okay.
number of versions.
Okay, I'll do that one first. Size of the largest cluster, I believe, is 900 hypervisors, which I forget what it translated into as in VMs. A bunch. It was broken out of that, like that larger picture earlier. 16,000 VMs. So yeah, that's our largest cluster. And then the second question was
About upgrading.
upgrades. Yeah, so we're working through some of this automation work to get through the upgrade. So we're not planning on sticking on any kind of older release. I think maybe that was connected to the point previously about running on master. Like I sort of feel that it's personally better to run on stable, but it's more of a personal preference or what you feel comfortable with as a team or as a size of your team. If you want to run on stable or the latest code that is coming out of upstream. Like there's also variations of that where certain projects in OpenStack, you can actually run at a different pace than the rest of OpenStack. So for example, we're doing it right now with this Octavia project, which is this neutron load balancer split off project that manages HA proxy basically. That project is pretty much independent and that it uses Nova as a virtual VM creator. So as long as the API that Octavia talks with talks with Nova still works, which it has for a long time, you can actually run that at a much different rate, right? So you can switch, depending on which project you're consuming, you can actually change the speed of releases that you actually do. You're not necessarily always tied to like Nova Octa or Nova whatever the version number is or whatever. You can to some degree find flexibility in the different version numbers. Like especially in like side projects like Octavia, maybe not. This is the right word. It's a real project. So was that the questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Sure.
Front.
Can you go a little bit more about your experience using Kolla project, updating the servers? Like you might have changed something about Neutron layer 3 region, and then upgrading from one release to the next.
Yeah, so that's in progress. We're working on how that's happening right now as we speak. So it may be in a couple months that I can come back and do like a session on how we're doing that transition, because it's still TBD. There's a person working on our team on Ansible scripts to do all that right now. It's likely going to be a multi-stage thing where we have to stage it in the right way, especially to move from RPM-based solution to Docker container-based one, right? But I think there definitely will be more of a story soon. I think there may be a little early for that. But as far as the Kolla project itself, like the folks there have been really accommodating. I mean, I've done code contributions to it. Folks that are great, always on like helpful on IRC. We bring up sort of questions like, why is it done like this? And they're useful to explain the history of certain things because we don't know, right? Yeah, I mean, the images, like what Kolla has done is they previously were for those who don't know, they had a Docker building part of their project, which was, not Docker building, Docker files that would compose all the OpenStack services and sort of let you run a Docker build on those. And they would have Ansible scripts to actually use those images. They've recently, I think in the last couple months maybe, split off into sub-projects, which is they have this top level project that does the image building, that has all the Docker files, has some programs that help out with the image and Docker building. And then they have sub-projects that are doing the actual deployment. So for example, there's a Kolla Ansible project now that has the Ansible code or scripts or whatever you want to call it that actually use those images. And there's a Kolla Kubernetes project that tries to use those same images plus or minus some modifications to actually deploy OpenStack on Kubernetes, which is probably deserving of a whole talk. We're right now running Kubernetes on top of OpenStack. I'm pretty sure there's probably folks in this room that are doing the reverse. So it's like its own special talks. There's hours. There's probably hours you go into that and how it's worked out. But we're not ready to make that transition yet. We want to first like get like it may be eventual in a couple of years. I don't know, but I think it's too early to tell for that kind of thing. But Kolla itself has been worked out like it's fine so far.
I have a question.
Sure.
Just for the context, this is what is executed when I go to the GoDaddy website and request my own website or my DNS services. This is what happens in the background.
So there, that team is definitely using OpenStack. I don't know, like they have software layers above it that I don't actually know about to say enough detail about that. But yeah, I mean, most of the people at the company are using this. So yes.
So this is the only cloud you have.
As far as I know. Somebody hasn't told me.
So it doesn't matter. Every time somebody requests a web server to GoDaddy, it goes to this process.
The website or
web server.
so the website, that's where it gets weird. And that's where the software layers that I don't feel like I have knowledge enough to talk about is those layers. Other folks in the room may be able to, but definitely they're definitely using OpenStack. Where yeah, what layers above it, is it doing what? I'm not too sure. So, yeah.
What are you using to monitor the health of OpenStack and to let you know something?
Sure. So we have there's, I think our GoDaddy itself, before I got here, pretty much fixated on Sensu as a solution to do a lot of the monitoring. So we have, I think some of these are contributed upstream in OpenStack operator repo. I think some of the Sensu scripts that we've been using to actually do monitoring around like Rabbit. That's integrated with Slack as well. I don't know if that's proprietary. I don't think so, but we have all these events being triggered, Sensu checks that are happening, database checks. We have periodic checks that basically do like check how big the Rabbit queue is, and if it's above a certain threshold, do some kind of alerting, and do some token fetching. Just make sure like basic sanity checks are happening throughout the cloud. So Sensu. Sure.
What hypervisor you were using for?
Sure. So the question is, what hypervisor are we using? It's KVM based Send7 QEMU.
So on average, how many instances do you run on this hypervisor? On average.
So the question is, what is the overcommit? On average, I don't actually know off the top of my head, but it's probably it's memory bound. So I think it's really limited. We don't try to push memory beyond. So it's basically the factor of the memory. I don't think we try to overcommit like much at all on memory. So it depends on the memory of the machine and how high it will go. But I think it's the disk, I believe we are overcommitting on, but memory we definitely don't. So it depends on the memory ratio.
So can you share some of the difficulties that you have faced for while scaling out in case of networking?
If I only could talk about networking, so I'm not too much a networking expert. So yes, there are issues. It's been fun. I've heard for some version of fun. So not me on that one.
Come to the meetup in March. There will be lots of networking experts who can talk about.
Sure, there's lots of
Docker and containers and OpenStack.
Maybe in that building or that building.
If you want to, yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, there are folks.
So how many patches are you maintaining out of tree, and how's that working out for you?
So the question is, how many patches are we maintaining out of tree, and how is that working for you? So the number, let's see if I can remember. It's like I think it's like 10. A majority, I think it's 12, something around there. It's not like less than 20. A lot of it's really related to our Nova cells usage, the V1 cells, which is an interesting little paradigm because Nova, they basically don't support cells V1 anymore, right? And there were certain fixes that we needed to get in for certain functionality that didn't work, and they were working on cells V2, which is the next generation replacement. And so these are these things we've had to carry forward until that replacement is ready, which I don't believe it is yet. Maybe next cycle.
They're putting a high priority on it.
Right. So we have these sort of things that we have to carry around until that's ready, and we like not just then when it's ready, but we have a plan to actually get to it. Like because the transition I think is the next step for most folks to wonder about is how do you move from cells V1 to cells V2, and I've heard various thoughts from people on it. I don't know if there's any actual solution. think there's going to be maybe some documentation, and we'll have to try to figure it out. We'll see. Most of those are self-V1. I think one of them is Keystone, maybe like LDAP or something small. Neutron, I think maybe one or two. Not too many. We're trying to get rid of them. We have like backlog in our Jira to get rid of this thing, and slowly gets worked on. It's a little bit one of those things you have to keep pressure on, and otherwise you'll just stay there. That's about how many. Any other questions?
How do you use the scheduler at CD?
So in OpenStack or in GoDaddy or in Kubernetes?
Every place.
Every place. So not every place. I believe our Kubernetes folks that are working Kubernetes use etcd because that's what it comes with, or not comes with. That's what its primary storage backend is. I don't know if it's the only storage backend. But OpenStack itself is not using etcd. If you're thinking more of along the lines of a service catalog or something like that, it's somewhat what people use it for. GoDaddy is trying to work through plans on how to make something like that possible. I don't know if it's etcd based. OpenStack, if with regards to how OpenStack works, there are capabilities for it to use it in various locations. But there's a driver I think that I put up for one of the projects in OpenStack, or a library in OpenStack that lets people use it for doing some kind of service discovery. It's a library called Twos that I worked on with Julian Danger. He's French. I don't know his name. But there's a library that we worked on that lets you use etcd for like logging and service discovery. And we've been trying to sort of integrate that library more deeply into various OpenStack projects. So there's capabilities for it. Not totally. It's not ready. I don't know if it's going to be easy to push into OpenStack, but in the future, I would hope something like it is. I did a whole summit session and maybe a couple things to go with like on LWN.net. That was about the whole locking situation in OpenStack and how people have done their own kind of solution. So it's almost like we could do a whole meetup on just that probably. Anyway, there probably one's over here.
Can you say what hardware you run on?
Can I say what hardware?
Uh-huh.
I know it looks like a computer.
Your own, or do you like farm it out?
Yeah, I think it's farmed out, but I don't know the brands or anything. It has chips in it, I'm pretty sure. Vacuum tubes. I'm pretty sure it runs KVM. Yeah. Anyway.
You sent us on both the container and the hosts.
So inside the container solution, so Kolla really right now supports two. I don't know if it's called limitation or what you want to call it, but Kolla natively builds has this base image and Ubuntu and CentOS bases. So the container itself, that's what you're asking, right? Or are you talking about more what's inside the VMs? Let me make sure.
Well, you said CentOS, and I was wondering, are you using CentOS 7 and are you using it everywhere? Or
yes. Okay. There's variations of that. Like there's some other folks that are doing Kubernetes stuff. I think they're using another base layer for that. It's a tinier layer made for containers. It's not Atomic or one of these other ones, but it's a popular one. I forget what it's called. But yeah, CentOS for the hypervisor. Most people's VMs are CentOS. And the container-based image that we're using with Kolla is CentOS. So yes, mostly CentOS. Sure.
What percentage of your workloads are on containers versus legacy VMs? Is that changing?
VMs legacy.
It's 4 years old, so it's legacy, I guess.
I'm just messing with you. So I don't know the percentage. I mean, somebody around here might. There is somebody that knows that. Actually, they probably told me once, but I remember. It's probably bigger than 0 and less than 100. All right, next question.
I'm just curious, you guys don't do any bare metal? Even most of your customers small business? No bare metal?
So there is a bare metal area, but I don't know too much about it. I mean, these hypervisors run on something, I hope. So there is bare metal there. And there is bare metal services. There is a whole inventory system.
Are they managed by OpenStack? I think that's the question.
Is that the question? Are they managed by
so
OpenStack?
if we use like Island, you can
So yes, there's ongoing work to use more of Ironic for the bare metal stuff here. It's probably worth. I don't think I'm the best technical guy on this.
And also no GPU support. Your server no GPU support.
So we have various requests every now and then to pop up. There, another guy in the team may be able to answer that one better than myself. But I've heard it's definitely come up every now and then. Like I think it's for some of the deep learning stuff that people want to use it right. But I don't know how high a priority it is. Yeah, there's been asks for. I just don't know how far along it is pipeline.
Sure. How are you guys tackling automating patching of the hypervisors?
So it's another one that another guy in the team I should talk about. But there's a whole pipeline around how we do the automation on that's being built out. It's like sort of a somewhat custom program that does a lot of the patching, but it's sort of also semi-human driven right now. But it's moving to more automation.
So do you vacate the VMs off the hypervisor patch, or do you just mitigate the services? What's the strategy, I guess? Because that's our big challenge.
Yeah, it's a good question. Right now, I think it's actually in place. We just do so we have the ability to actually tell people we're just going to turn off their stuff for a little while and it's going to come back on, right? It may not be possible everywhere. And we try to push that ephemeral aspect of like make sure people understand that put your thing behind a load balancer, don't make your VM the only VM that has this whatever it is on it. But there's definitely tooling being built, automation around that. I can probably put you in contact with somebody that can go into it. It's a known thing. Like probably everybody has to figure that one out.
Cool. A question on that. You mentioned we have a public and private. So the public cloud, you use like bare metal there for OpenStack?
I'm pretty sure the VMs. Yeah, sorry. So the question is public, private cloud, bare metal in the public cloud, right? Where is the bare metal, or where do you get it? Yeah. So it goes back to the question like that I'm not the best one for that one, probably. They run on OpenStack. Depending on the service here, they may also use some bare metal, but they do run on the public cloud here that is OpenStack based. Is using the same software that that my team manages. It's the same group of folks that help manage it. So it does use bare metal. Is it offered directly to customers? Sure.
What service do you use for storage?
This is the last question.
We'll still be around, but go ahead, Ralph.
Oh, I'll be around still, but this may be the last question.
What service do you use for storage?
So the question is, which service do you use for storage? So the VMs right now have a local disk. That's one solution for them. And there's ongoing work for Ceph being used for block and object storage. So there's access for those that people can use. Cinders being spun up, or they can go to the Ceph APIs directly. I think some of the one that is nice, like Ceph provides the object storage function. It has like an S3 API, I believe. So there's that one even turning out to let people use that. Cinders being turned up as well for block storage. So both of those.
Okay,
well, no, Josh will still be here, but I just want to, so who else from your team is here from GoDaddy? Raise your hand. Anyone else? Okay, so look around because all these guys can also help answer questions. And also I want to give them another round of applause for this.